The Celestial Dragon, a saga of the Han Dynasty.
From the ashes of a tyrannical regime, a new power rises to forge a golden age for China. We follow the peasant founder Liu Bang's rise to power. Witness the martial emperor Wu's creation of the Silk Road.
The story of the Han Dynasty does not begin in a grand palace, but in the dust and chaos of a collapsing empire. The preceding dynasty, the Qin, had been the first to unify the warring states of China in 321 BC under its formidable first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. He was a figure of immense and terrible power, the man who standardized weights, measures, currency, and the written script. He connected the nation with a network of roads and began the monumental project of linking fortifications into what would become the Great Wall. His tomb was guarded by the now famous terracotta army, an entire legion sculpted from clay to protect him in the afterlife. Yet, his rule was one of absolute tyranny, built upon the principles of legalism, a philosophy that advocated for strict laws, harsh punishments, and the complete subjugation of the individual to the state. He burned books, executed scholars, and worked the common people to death on his grandiose projects. When he died in 210 BC, the empire he had forged through terror was brittle and seething with resentment. His heir was weak and easily manipulated by the cunning eunuch Xiao Gao and the ruthless prime minister Li Si. The Qin court descended into paranoia and purges while the empire groaned under the weight of crushing taxes and merciless laws. The breaking point came in 29 BC, when two lowly officers, Chen Sheng and Wu Guang, were delayed by heavy snow and flooding while escorting a group of conscripts. According to Qin law, being late for a government assignment was punishable by death. Facing certain execution, they chose rebellion instead. Their desperate uprising was the spark that lit a conflagration. Across the land, peasant armies rose up, and the descendants of the old noble houses of the conquered states saw their chance to reclaim their power. The Qin dynasty, designed to last for 10,000 generations, crumbled into dust in a mere 15 years. Out of this nationwide chaos, two primary contenders for the ultimate prize, the mandate of heaven, emerged. They could not have been more different. The first was Shang Yu, a scion of the noble house of the former state of Chu. He was the quintessential aristocratic warrior, immensely tall, possessed of superhuman strength, brilliant on the battlefield, charismatic, yet also arrogant, cruel, and prone to fits of murderous rage. He was a master tactician who could win any battle, but he lacked the vision and temperament to win a war and rule a nation. His rival was Liu Bang. Born a commoner, a peasant from Pei County, Liu Bang was, in his early life, a minor local official of a somewhat roguish character. He was known for his love of drink, his aversion to farm work, and his ability to attract a loyal following of capable friends. He was not a great general like Shang Yu, nor was he a refined aristocrat, but he possessed something far more valuable. He was a shrewd judge of character, a man who knew how to delegate authority to brilliant subordinates, and he had a deep, innate understanding of the common people from which he sprang. He was pragmatic, adaptable, and, when necessary, utterly ruthless, but he could also display acts of great generosity and forgiveness that inspired fierce loyalty. The ensuing conflict, known as the Chu-Han contention, was a brutal 4-year civil war that became one of the most celebrated epics in Chinese history. Shang Yu, with his elite army, repeatedly outmaneuvered and crushed Liu Bang's forces on the battlefield. After one devastating defeat, Liu Bang's own father and wife were captured by Shang Yu. In a famous incident, Shang Yu threatened to boil Liu Bang's father alive if he did not surrender. Liu Bang, ever the pragmatist, coolly replied, "We were once sworn brothers. My father is your father. If you insist on boiling your own father, then please send me a bowl of the soup." This unflappable nerve infuriated and unsettled Shang Yu, who ultimately relented. While Shang Yu was winning battles through brute force, Liu Bang was winning the war through strategy and statecraft. He was aided by a trio of exceptionally talented men, the brilliant general Han Xin, who could marshal armies and win battles with genius that rivaled Shang Yu's, the wise strategist Zhang Liang, a master of tactics and political maneuvering, and the shrewd administrator Xiao He, who managed logistics, supplied the army, and governed the rear territories, ensuring Liu Bang always had a base of support to fall back on. Liu Bang's great strength was that he trusted these men and listened to their counsel. Shang Yu's great weakness was his arrogance. He trusted only himself. A pivotal moment came early in the conflict. A pact had been made that whoever conquered the Qin heartland of Guanzhong and its capital, Shenyang, first would be made its king. While Shang Yu was bogged down in heavy fighting, Liu Bang's army advanced and took the capital. True to his character, Liu Bang acted with clemency.
He forbade looting, abolished the harsh Qin laws, and declared a simple code of 3 rules. Murder must be paid for with a life, assault and theft would be punished accordingly, and all other Qin laws were void. This act immediately won him the hearts and minds of the populace. When Shang Yu finally arrived, he was enraged. He ordered the slaughter of the city's inhabitants, the execution of the last Qin ruler, and the burning of the magnificent Epang Palace, a fire that is said to have lasted for 3 months. This act of senseless destruction starkly contrasted with Liu Bang's moderation and cost Shang Yu's immense popular support. The final confrontation came at the Battle of Gaixia in 2020 BC. The brilliant Han Xin encircled Shang Yu's weary and demoralized army. In a masterful stroke of psychological warfare, Han Xin ordered his troops to sing the folk songs of Shang Yu's native state of Chu from all sides of the camp during the night. When Shang Yu and his soldiers heard the songs of their homeland, they were utterly demoralized, believing their home had been conquered and that all was lost. Shang Yu's army dissolved. He fought his way out with a small band of loyal horsemen, making a legendary last stand on the banks of the Wu River. A local boatman offered him escape, but Shang Yu, overcome with shame at having lost all his men, refused. "I have no face to see the elders of my homeland again," he declared, before taking his own life. With the death of his rival, Liu Bang was the undisputed master of China. In 2020 BC, he ascended the imperial throne, proclaiming the beginning of a new dynasty, the Han. He became known to history by his temple name, Emperor Gaozu. He established his capital at Chang'an, a new city built near the ruins of the old Qin capital, a place we imagine here as perpetually covered in a beautiful layer of sun-drenched snow. The palaces with their swooping tiled roofs, the wide boulevards and the massive rammed earth city walls would all be dusted in white, the bright sun giving the new capital a feeling of purity and a new beginning. Emperor Gaozu understood that the overly centralized, brutally administered Qin model had failed. He also knew that the old feudal system of the Zhou dynasty, with its powerful independent nobles, had led to centuries of warfare. He therefore engineered a brilliant compromise. He divided the empire into 2 parts. The western third, centered on the capital, he administered directly through a system of commanderies and counties, much like the Qin. The eastern 2/3 he granted as semi-autonomous kingdoms to his most important generals and relatives, rewarding their loyalty and placing trusted men in charge of the vast territory. He largely abandoned the harsh philosophy of legalism in favor of a more hands-off, Taoist-inspired approach, known as Huang Lao. The government drastically reduced taxes, demobilized a large portion of the army, and allowed the people and the economy to recover from the decades of war. This policy, known as Wu Wei non-action, was incredibly successful. It fostered a period of peace and recovery that laid the crucial economic foundation for the dynasty's future strength. Despite his new imperial status, Gaozu never lost his common touch or his pragmatic nature. He despised the elaborate and restrictive rituals of court life, often shocking the stuffy Confucian scholars who tried to implement them. Yet, he also understood the need for legitimacy. He began to patronize scholars and ordered the recovery of the books that had been banned under the Qin, signaling a new respect for learning and tradition. One of the greatest threats to his new empire came from the north. The Shenggu, a powerful confederation of nomadic horsemen from the Mongolian steppes, constantly raided Han border settlements. In 2000 bikes, Gaozu personally led a massive army to confront them, but was lured into a trap by the Shenggu leader Modu Chanyu. Gaozu and his army were besieged for 7 days at Baideng, cut off from supplies in the harsh snowy landscape. He only managed to escape through a clever stratagem devised by one of his advisors. Humbled by this defeat, Gaozu was forced to accept a policy of appeasement, known as the Heichin system. This involved sending regular tributes of silk, grain and wine to the Shenggu, and most significantly, sending a Han princess to be a bride for the Shenggu leader. This humiliating but pragmatic policy bought the fledgling dynasty precious peace on its northern frontier for several decades, giving it the time it needed to consolidate its power and build its strength. Emperor Gaozu died in 1950 BC. His reign had been a masterclass in political consolidation. The peasant rebel had become a revered emperor, a man who had navigated the treacherous currents of civil war and laid a stable, enduring foundation for what would become one of the world's greatest civilizations. His legacy was secured not just by his conquests, but by his wisdom in knowing when to be lenient, when to be pragmatic, and how to heal a nation shattered by tyranny and war. The dragon had been forged, and its celestial journey was just beginning.